That is the scariest thing you will see all week.
Look at that.
The Pastor
It is
Ben
back.
pumpkin has now emerged from its hibernation.
It gets out once a year.
Yeah, and so it is time to have him visit us the great pumpkin.
The great pumpkin gets
Is-
out of the office for a couple of weeks a year.
Yep. He gets to come down to the studio
How about that?
and then goes right back into hibernation. See, it's sitting there right between us, and
Yeah, we'll
That's
do the
a-
whole episode in the
look
dark
at that.
today.
Yes, that is some scary stuff. Look
Yeah,
at
it is.
we can even move him a little bit. Look at that.
Yeah,
Look at that.
that is pretty special.
If I could just wear it like a costume, that would be great. So
And it is surprisingly good every time you actually see it lit up.
yeah, you don't see
Yeah.
it once you turn the lights on. So flip
Yeah,
on the
we
lights.
turn on the lights.
And I gotta turn on the lights over here.
Yeah, it
the,
doesn't look the same, does it?
The image floats away. Hold on, I gotta turn on all of our lights. Here we go. Now we're back to normal. Well, whatever that means.
It's certainly dressed for Halloween
Yep.
now.
And did you see I got my candy?
You got quite a bit of candy.
Yep. That will last until Thursday.
How long
So-
do you have to go trick or treating to get all that?
Oh my gosh, going early and not wearing a costume. You know how hard it is to come up with
I
candy.
believe it. You got to put in the time.
That's right.
Wow.
Let me in. Give me candy.
Give me candy.
I only got arrested 3 times.
A new record.
A new record. That's right. Yeah, it wasn't pretty, but I posted bail. So
There you go.
yeah.
There you go.
So I want to show you a vintage picture. So this is Halloween 2024 in the making.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
How about we go back 51 years and look at Halloween 1973?
Let's go back.
Let's take a look at the screens here. Let's see if we can pull that
Yes. All right.
picture up of Halloween 1973.
Wow.
So that is right there in the living room in the house I lived in when I was 3 years old, looking into the cutout into the kitchen there. And that is me in the Mickey Mouse
Mickey Mouse,
costume.
I feel like I have a Mickey Mouse. I don't remember it, but I feel like I have a picture wearing a Mickey Mouse that's very similar to that
Yeah, vintage.
vintage. Yes.
And Batman is my brother.
Uh-huh.
And
He's looking good too.
yep. And so that's back in the day when there were a lot less homemade costumes. And you would go, well, back then your choices were like Walgreens or Kmart.
Okay.
Yeah. And you would go into the Halloween aisle and there was box upon box, and they were kind of like cake boxes. Some of you remember this. And cellophane top so you could look in, and you might have had a dozen choices. Typical things like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Batman, Robin, maybe a princess. If there was a popular character that year, probably any of the like Bugs Bunny, Warner Brothers, and
pretty exciting.
And then they were all listed by size, from extra small to extra large for kids. And you'd go and you'd kind of look through, and maybe you'd find it and you'd hope they'd have the right size.
Yeah.
And then you'd pick out, and it was kind of this sateen, cheap nylon material. Tie in the back. You put it on and you tie it in the back.
That's what it looks like.
and that's-
it looks
yep.
like you're in cellophane or
Yep.
something.
Yeah. And then the mask that just slides over the front. And so I got
Batman is very serious.
And although Philip's not on the microphone camera, do you remember going to Kmart and picking out? Yeah, and picking out the box with the cellophane, you looking in and seeing the mask in there. So
How about that?
so that's
and,
that's
and with
Halloween 1973.
73. And when you went trick or treating, you went to. I love the story. Like you go to different people's houses and you went in. They made you
So
whatever. It wasn't
yeah,
like
so
prepackaged candy.
So later than this, though, when we had moved to rural Western Illinois, and we would go to all of our church members' homes for Halloween, and some of them were farmers, so they weren't getting a lot of trick-or-treaters, right? You'd drive, and they would prepare for 100 kids when they'd only get 5 every year, right? I mean, it's like,
Okay.
but they were always had this optimism, and they would make brownies. They would make popcorn balls. They would have cookies, and
That's a totally different trick-or-treating experience.
Oh,
Yeah.
way better.
Yeah, right.
Way better. And occasionally, and today you still find it, but occasionally you would run into the person who didn't make something, but they had full-size Milky Ways or full-size Snickers bars. And I mean
Yeah.
the regular ones, right? And so trick-or-treating back then, you came home with some really good stuff.
That is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And one that you can't really, I mean, I suppose you could bake brownies on Halloween, but it would be kind of tricky to hand that to all the little children.
To all of them, right?
Yes, with a
Right.
Here's a crumbly gooey brownie.
Yeah. Well,
for
we
your,
we do ravioli at our house.
Do you?
Yeah. Each kid gets a ravioli.
Just one. Yes.
Yeah. I have a
yes,
tongs. Doesn't
Yeah.
even go in a bag. Just drop it right in the sack there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, it's cheese ravioli.
Cheese
Yeah.
ravioli.
Yeah, that's what
I
they
bet
get.
you have a mean ravioli recipe too, though. Like I should probably come by.
Yeah, right. Right.
I
You better
would
bring the
believe that
boys.
you have
We
a
got some.
really good ravioli over there.
And then the kids yell, "What? No sauce?" and then I shut the door. No, I'm kidding.
There you
So,
go.
and I'm telling you, I haven't had a popcorn ball in years, but man, they're good.
I mean, agreed. It's been years.
Yeah.
Since
The closest thing I get to it, I don't know if you ever
remember
get
when
a
it
chance
went
to this, but I often, when I see it, and it's not in Las Vegas, it's often back in the Midwest, I will buy kettle corn if I see it. And usually it's at like a farmer's market or a flea market, and
Okay.
somebody is making
that
it.
sounds. Yes,
like
if you can
right
see it, because you
there.
can buy it in the the prepackaged. But when
Yeah.
you see somebody
Fresh
making it,
kettle corn. That's about as close as you get to a popcorn ball because it's sweet and salty, and
sure it is. Sure it is.
it's good stuff. So good remembrances. Not that I need a popcorn ball in my life at this point, obviously. So it's probably
various
just as
people
well.
need them.
Yeah. So it's just as well I don't get one. So I wanted to point this out over here on this lapel. I'm wearing my I voted sticker, and so on the here we go, right there. So this past weekend, we had gotten our ballots in the mail,
Yeah, we did too.
and on Sunday evening, we filled them out.
Okay, we got ours filled out and in the mail that last weekend too.
And
so.
but I didn't drop them in the mail. On Monday, I drove over to Henderson City Hall,
Yeah.
which is kind of Water Street and whatever that back road is, and parked. And I walked in, and I dropped them right in the slot yesterday
you're
at about
covered.
noon. So I didn't need to have a middleman. I
No.
just was like, I'm going to go straight to the
Take care of it.
take care of the
Yep.
place and do it. So we got those, and I thought, well, because they include the sticker, I thought today would be a good day with a broadcast to remind everybody that not only is early voting happening, but if you got a mail-in ballot, you can either fill it out and
take
mail it,
care of it
or you
there.
can drop it off at any number of the locations. I just thought City Hall, right? Go right
Yeah.
to the heart of government and
Yeah.
drop it off.
Yeah.
So did that. And so this past week, speaking of voting, our presiding bishop, Bishop Eaton, recorded a video for us for the entire Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, talking about the election. It's not a partisan thing. It's because legally we cannot take sides in an election,
And we don't. I mean,
And we
that's not what we're about.
No.
Yeah.
but give some very helpful thoughts on the election. We're going to show it in just a second, but here's the thing that I would want to frame in your mind before you watch what our presiding bishop has to say. I'd say this is Jesus once said, "Whatever you did to the least of these, you also did to me." And that applies in every area of our lives, including an election year. That we as Christians and the children of God have been asked to care and watch over those who don't have the same opportunities as us. And when we think about elections, as a Christian, one of the things we should keep in mind is how are my choices going to potentially, we don't know for sure, potentially help or hurt the least of these? And I think that's always an important question, because I think if it applies to the rest of my life 24/7, because Jesus calls us into that discipleship, it also applies in that moment too. So with that in mind, I want you to watch this with us and absorb it a little bit.
Dear Church, as we approach this election season, let's take a moment to reflect on what it means for us as Christians and as Lutherans to engage in the voting process. We find ourselves in a contentious time with deep divisions in our society. However, even in the face of such disagreement, we are called to remember something deeper. We are all united in Christ. We are not defined by our political affiliations, but by our shared baptism and our commitment to the gospel. As people of faith, we are called to engage in our communities and work for justice and to advocate for the dignity and well-being of all people. One way we do this is by voting, ensuring that our voices are heard as we shape our society together. Election Day gives us the opportunity to live out that commitment by speaking up for those who cannot speak for themselves, by advocating for people who are poor, hungry, and vulnerable. As people of God, we are called to love our neighbor as ourselves, and that love includes our responsibility as citizens. Voting is not just a civic duty, it is a way to serve our neighbors. When we vote, we have the chance to advocate for policies that reflect God's justice and compassion. When we vote, we should think more about the policies that affect the most vulnerable people in our communities, those that Jesus calls upon us to serve. This can be hard work, especially when the rhetoric around us is so divisive. But we follow a Lord who calls us to a higher standard. Jesus teaches us about loving kindness, mercy, and justice. And we are invited to carry those teachings into the voting booth. So as we prepare to vote, I ask you to approach this election with prayerful hearts. Let us think about not only what benefits ourselves, but also how we can best serve others. Let us ask how our votes can build a society that reflects what God desires, where every person is valued and where peace and justice prevail. Remember, we are not alone in this work. We walk together, guided by Christ, trusting in his grace and always striving to do what is right and good for our neighbors. Together, we can create a society that reflects God's justice and love. Let's ensure our voices are heard. Let's vote.
I thought that was very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It reminds us. I mean, yeah, what we're calling is all about.
yep, and I would hope for all of us here that your identity as a Christian outweighs and is more important than any political affiliation you might have. Yeah. That being a child of God comes first and foremost above anything else. And I think that is important to say it, because I'm not sure we kind of just throw a lot of these things into a big vat in our heart and think, oh, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. But one is more important than all the
Right,
rest.
and not that voting, I mean, we're obviously bringing this up because voting is very important,
Yeah,
and
and you
your
should.
vote is very important.
That's right.
But I think it's just, excuse me, important to remember that anytime we put our different people on such a high pedestal, almost becomes an idol.
Yeah.
And that's going to let you down.
Yep.
And we say that time after time after time.
Yep. You're not going to find a savior in Washington, D.C. Yep. So I think, so let me reframe this for you. Do your politics inform your Christianity, or does your faith inform your politics? Only you can answer that.
Yeah.
And I think that is where you need to think about what influences the other and which one should influence the other. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this past week, we continued on in our sermon series in Winners and Losers, and we moved to a different, more introspective thought on winning and losing. And the thought was this, is that our identity is not wrapped up in winning or losing, as opposed to kind of the way we kind of want to claw our way to the top externally. We turn and say, well, what defines you? And it's not the losing, and it's not the winning either. Mm-hmm. And we had this wonderful song. We had wonderful music all weekend.
Yes.
But we had a special song at 11 a.m. that comes from a musical from just a few years ago. And we thought if you did not get to us and join us at 11 a.m. this past week, this is one you don't want to miss. And if you were with us, you will be happy to hear it again.
Absolutely.
So let's take a listen. We're going to talk about it when we come back.
I am not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say. We don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say. No one will love you as you are, but won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, gonna send a flood, gonna drown 'em out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Fire away, 'cause today I won't let them sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. We are warriors, yes, that's what we've become. Won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us. Warrior glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, gonna send the flood, gonna drown 'em out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I'm not worthy of. Let's sing that again. Come on now, sing with us. Know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I'm not worthy of. And the sharpest words wanna cut me down. Gonna send the flood, gonna drown 'em out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. Look out, 'cause here I come. I'm marching on to the beat of drum. I'm not scared. This is me. I know my worth. There's nothing I'm not worthy of. Oh yeah, this is me.
Wasn't that good?
That was really good.
Yeah, and my sucker is
I was
good
going to
too.
ask, are you talking about your sucker? That
No,
you have there?
Ashley Praise Team Band. They're
Yeah,
good too.
they were
I'll
really
set
good.
it down until we're done. How about that? It's trick or treat time, right?
Trick or treat time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is me. Some of
This
you
is
might
me.
know it. Came from the show The Greatest Showman, released October 26, 2017, sung by Keela Settle for the movie, and through Atlantic Records, and it won Golden Globe for Best Original Song.
Okay.
At the 75th Golden Globes. It was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song at the 90th Academy Awards, and also nominated for a Grammy for Best Song Written for Visual Media, so a movie. So nominated in various places, but it did win the Golden Globe for Best Original Song, and you can see why. I mean,
It is a powerful song.
Right.
Very powerful song.
And the song wasn't just a hit here in the United States. It also charted in the United Kingdom, so England, Australia, Ireland, Malaysia, South Korea, Belgium, and New Zealand. So it had a cross-cultural or transnational effect on folks because the song speaks to some real deep truths. And this goes back to what Pastor Brian was talking about this weekend, is that often we let the things that other people say, the failures in life, define us.
Define us. And that can
And-
lead to some just awful circumstances
Yep.
where we just let go of the gifts we do have.
That's right. And I think in some ways, when that becomes your story, your narrative, or you start to believe how others perceive you,
Yeah. And you put your faith in that
yeah,
over the story that God has given.
right? Then you live life as if you've been defeated and that there is no moving forward.
And I think it's heartbreaking because I think we all can think of people in our lives who are living that right now. Probably times in our own lives when we all have lived like that. But
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it is heartbreaking to see somebody who we know, who we love, live in that kind of trap.
Right? And it happens. I mean, listen to this first phrase in this song. I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, because we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say. No one will love you as you are.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think there are different places in our lives where we have felt that kind of shame because someone else has put it on us for any number of things. And the words of the gospel, the good news, have come to like drown that out so that we can move forward. And that we are not defined by those words. We are not defined by the experiences that cause us pain. We are defined by the claim that God has put on us. And I picked some verses today to share, to kind of reset your story if you're looking for that today. Beginning in Psalm 139, one of my favorite Psalms. And because it's a very intimate Psalm talking about God's care and presence in your life, no matter what is going
If you
on.
read that psalm, like it is truly powerful. It's meant to really cut to the core.
That's right. And it's not addressed to a congregation or a group of people. It's very it's written as if it's for me as an
Yeah,
individual
it's
or for
very
you
personal.
as an yeah.
Very personal psalm.
But within verse 13 and 14 of Psalm 139, it says this, for you created, so God, you created me in my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. And here's where I love this. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I just love that. We forget that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We forget that God purposed us to be born at a certain time in the period of human history for a specific reason. In other words, God has put us here in this moment for a reason, for a purpose, and not to be born in 1720 or in 2234. But God chose for each of us to be born in this period, in this time, for a reason.
That's an important perspective that, we don't always think about it in those
That God
lines.
chose for us to be here in this moment. God chose for us to be doing life together in October of 2024. And you go, oh, it isn't just random that I was born. It wasn't just random that I'm here in this moment. And so when we let the scars and the harsh words and the brokenness get to us, we think, why am I here? Why am I here? And instead, we can turn around and say, no, 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 no. You're here for a reason. Yeah, there's going to be pain in this life and disappointment. But at the same time, know that your season was meant to be. You are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that's important to hold on to. And as we continue on, if you go to Hebrews, there's this like encouragement to keep moving forward, even when the bruises and the cuts and the scratches and the emotional harm has happened. The author of Hebrews is like, but you gotta don't let that win.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is from Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and sin that so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race that marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.
So right in the middle of that, right? Throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. So there's two things, right? And I think the question for you today, because I can't answer for you, Pastor Brian can't answer, what is it that has hindered you? What is the narrative? What is the story? What is the scar that continues to interrupt your ability to live abundantly? Because there are things that hinder us, and it's always unique to our own experience. So that's why I can't tell you what it is for you. Can't tell you what it is for you. You have to go, oh, that thing in my life, that event, that moment, that tragedy, that's the thing that marked my life moving forward. And Paul or whoever wrote it, I got to be careful there, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
exactly.
we don't
It doesn't
know.
say in Hebrews.
Yeah. That he's like, you gotta throw off that stuff that hinders you. You know, that, going back to the song, right? I mean, look out, 'cause here I come. I'm marching to the beat of the drum to the beat I drum, not somebody else drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. When the words want to cut me down, I'm going to send a flood to drown them out. I'm going to send a flood to drown them out. This is me. Throwing off the thing that hinders. But you got to know what it is. You got to be self-aware enough to know, oh, that's the thing in my life, that moment, that experience, that everything moving forward has been shaded by that. Or when I'm feeling joy, then my mind goes to that thing and it cuts me back down.
Yeah.
You got to be able to let that go. And then, of course, he says, and sin that easily entangles, and it does easily entangle like a vine. And we have to be careful of that, too, as we make choices so that we don't trip up and fall. And we will, but man, if you can be wise to it and avoid some of the pitfalls, so much the better.
Right. I think that's part of it, is that we all are going to get entangled at times.
Yep.
We all live in that. But it's just like taking a breath every single day and realizing that's not ours to carry.
No,
We can let that go.
nope. And it doesn't become our
Release
story.
it.
Yep.
Just release it.
And that's the whole reason for the cross of Christ, is so that we don't carry that burden and that junk
That's
around
it,
with us.
right there.
Period. And it is lived out in the resurrection. So Jesus rises from the dead, and then that following week after his resurrection, some of the disciples decided to go back home, and probably they're like, I don't know how this movement continues after Jesus died, but yes, he rose from the dead, but I don't know, it's not the same anymore. And so some of them were like, I got to go back home and make a living. Peter, James, John, they're like, some of those guys had mouths to feed at home,
Yeah, they did.
right?
Yeah.
So they go back to the Sea of Galilee. So they were in Jerusalem. They go back up north. They get back, start fishing. They were like, I gotta put some food on the table, right?
Just like, was that just one wild dream? And
Yeah.
back to the way life is now.
That's right. And so one morning they're out fishing. This is shortly after the resurrection, and they catch a lot of fish, and all of a sudden they see somebody out on the shore. They're not too far, and totally recognize that it's Jesus who had risen from the dead, and they knew this. And, Peter's really excited. He swims to shore,
Yeah.
leaves the other guys behind.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks, Peter.
He's excited.
He's excited, which you can't blame him. Jesus risen from the dead. They get there. There's a campfire going, and he's like, let's have breakfast, because they've been fishing all night. And so they eat breakfast together, and none of them want to say anything about anything, because they're like, we know it's Jesus, but he also died, but we also know he rose again. And like, even though they spent 3 years like talking with him and hanging out with him, now it's like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Like, how do I talk to somebody who's risen from the dead?
It's such an interesting moment, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like some awkwardness there. And so they're all kind of keeping quiet and kind of waiting for Jesus to take the lead.
Yeah. Is this going to go
How's this
back
gonna
to
go?
normal? Or
Right.
is it like the way it was? Or, what role is Jesus looking
Yeah,
for?
you can disappear now and just show up whenever you want. Like, this is different. So anyways, at the end of breakfast, Jesus says to Peter, he says, Simon, son of John, so that's his name, do you love me more than these? And he's kind of pointing to the other guys, James and John. And he says, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. Now, okay, so what does that have to do with the scars of life? Now, remember, Peter denied Jesus when he was at Caiaphas' house the night of his arrest.
Yeah.
And he denies him 3 times. Jesus said, you're going to deny me 3 times. And at this point, after all of that, the denial, his death, his resurrection, as far as we know, Peter and Jesus had not yet talked that moment out yet. It was still hanging out there
Right.
that Peter denied him. And it is in this moment in John chapter 21 that Jesus is gently undoing that narrative of the denial. Peter denied him 3 times. 3 times Jesus asked, do you love me? It's as if he's undoing the denial. And he's saying, yeah, you know I love you. I love you so much. And each time the response to that was, well, then take care of the church. I mean, he says, feed my sheep, feed my lambs. But he's saying,
what he's talking about is
he's
the
like,
church,
yeah,
God's people.
Yeah, take care of God's people. Then show me by taking care of God's people. And so after 3 times, Peter gets a little frustrated, of course. And he's like, no. There's a point to this. He's undoing the narrative of the denial.
Telling a new story.
Telling a new story. That's exactly right. And from that point forward, Peter, not because Jesus somehow, took out a sword and kind of knighted him, or Jesus didn't take out a crown and, crown him like, now you're in charge of the church. But it was just this real subtle way of saying your new story is going to be caring for others in the church.
Yeah, and don't give up on that story just because Jesus is no longer going to be the rabbi who's in front,
That's right.
carrying everything out, doing all the miracles. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is you.
This
And
is you now.
You can do this.
So a new story and a new way of thinking. And I think in our lives, that's where we need to think about those new opportunities that Jesus places before us. And before we can say, well, I can't do that because, or I'm no good, Jesus is trying to change the story. He's trying to start a new chapter in your life because something has hindered you so much that he wants to give you a new opportunity to shine.
Yep.
And I think that's really important for us about changing the script, changing the story, writing a new story, and letting go of letting the past be in the past.
Past being the past.
Yeah. So we give you thanks that you joined us today. We hope you are doing well. We have church council tonight,
Yes, we do.
so we got another
Coming up
meeting later.
soon.
Yep. So
You're going to finish your lollipop by then?
I'm hoping.
Okay.
I'm
There's
I'm-
another one for you if you do.
I'm doing the countdown of, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? The Owls said 3. So we'll find out.
We'll find
Yeah.
out. We'll let you know by next Thursday.
Exactly. Yes, I got 2 days to finish this.
Yeah.
Anyways, we hope you have a good rest of your day. Enjoy that cool-ish weather. It's warming up a
Cool-ish.
little bit, but it's
I'll
certainly
take
better
it.
than it was.
I'll take it.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day. We love you. Take care. God bless you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Philip Fortenberry.